Live. You are live. Boom. Greetings, Arthur. An honor once
Johnny,
again to be with you and have a great reasoning. That's what we do here on the TruMon show. Grateful forever. Forever grateful. Definitely.
thank
And
you for
being
the
grateful
platform.
is knowing that you have enough, you are enough, and you don't need a ton of stuff in life to find happiness and find that gratefulness within you. So, yeah, I'm very grateful. I am enough, and we're going to do this. So, tonight, I want to start tonight,
I'm
today
just going
for
to
you.
shut a window, Johnny. I'm just going to shut the window next to my desk here. Hang on. There's a southerly coming through. That's better.
Okay, if we talk about supreme intelligence, super consciousness, we're talking about creation, definitely. Now, do you think that all this knowledge that we have about plants, about anything, the AI and stuff, is of human origin or could have been passed down to us from, I don't know, I don't want to say Anunnaki or stuff like this. No? This is just stuff I heard. But as this knowledge come from us after trials and error of thousands of years of trials and error of eating this mushroom or that stuff, or and then someone dies, so it's an error, or the knowledge of all the mushrooms, all the food in nature that is good for us because there's many plants that are medicinal. Some can kill you. So this old knowledge super, I think it's super, has to do with super intelligence, definitely, because none of us can go in the forest today and start saying, okay, I know this, like we're completely lost. We would probably die in the wild because we're not prepared for that. We don't have the knowledge how to survive in the wild. Like even myself, probably I would freaking die. I don't know. So I want to know, do you think from your perspective, your stuff that you have reflected on is this knowledge of human origin? Because you always say everything is man-made, comes from
Yeah,
man, it's
yeah.
man-made. So where does this come from, especially if we consider that maybe 1,000, like how long the earth's been here? Is Was there even a beginning to the earth, or it's always been here? Like, how old is this place here? Where is it? Does it stand in somewhere, or like all this knowledge someone has to know? Like, I repeat often that nobody knows where we are, nobody knows freaking nothing, but I think that there is some knowledge out there. Now I don't think I am going to find it at the bottom of the Vatican, in the library at the bottom of the Vatican, or any library with ABC 123, but with observation and enough centering and meditation, I don't know, maybe less distraction, I can get to those answers. Maybe it's inside me. Maybe, like, I would like to know, what is the sun, what is the moon, what is the earth, where is the earth. All this, is this knowledge somewhere? Because a lot of people will have speculation about the sun, that it's plasma or this or I heard all kinds of stuff. Most of it nonsense, because no one can really tell me what the sun is. Like, is this knowledge accessible to us, Arthur? Or if it's everything is man made, maybe we can have access to it somewhere? Or am I
I mean,
completely looking too far to, or I should keep the awe and the wonder?
well, you have free
I can
will.
wonder all my life. I'm never going to know anything if I wonder all my life.
Well, you have free will, and you do have the ability to feel and sense and all that. It's whether you use that. Talking, collective generally for all of us, but is another matter. It's because what we're focusing on, we're projecting and creating. So, um, I mean, a few things came up for me in what you were saying. If I hope I can remember all of them. Um, when we breathe out, our dreams, our thoughts, intentions are encoded in the breath, and it adds to the breath of life out there. It's eternal unless we actually can destroy the air. Um, so we have access to that. um, and it's part of how nature works, because through the air, through the what we breathe and breathe out, is where the senses operate, because senses are not defined. You can't pinpoint senses. Senses is just all of life itself communing with all of life. And so we have access to that. It's whether we can sense it, feel it, and respond with that intelligence, or whether we default by proxy to the scripts in our head, where you have been discussing, people talking to you and telling you. So what is the sun? What is this and what is that? Well, you that's the whole journey of the Love for Life discussions, and Arthur and Fiona Christian with you since we met and doing these podcasts and everything else I've been doing almost for 20 years, because this is that's the core dilemma, is that confusion. Um, I, I I share views, but I can say that I've had a lot of experiences with this. I mean, one that really that only recently sort of blew me away. When we moved onto this land 3 years, a bit over 3 years ago now, um, or more than 3 years ago now. Sorry, um, I had a phobia with snakes, because we have, in the wider region, we have like 18 different snakes, and about a quarter are ultra dangerous, ultra venomous, or maybe a little bit less, and then there's another quarter that are mildly toxic, mildly venomous. I was watching a Facebook group on snakes, a fantastic Facebook group. So I learned to find peace, and then I started to experience a few red-bellied black snakes here in our garden, amongst a python, a juvenile python, had turned up. And anyway, the point I'm getting at is that I had these visions of snakes 2 times. It's happened to me twice. These awaking visions, um, both of them to do with red belly uh, black snakes. And it came to me. I sort of just realised the snake is entering into the domain of the 26.8 acres that I hold as Ironbark Farm, as I hold as the motherland for this dream. And the snake was telling me, I'm coming onto your land, communing, letting me know it's here. And so that made me, the first time it happened, it made me a bit more conscious looking around, when I'm walking around. And then eventually I saw it out here just outside the back garden. Um, and I was happy for it. I was actually amazingly joyful. I wasn't reactive or anything. Um, so that's been a couple of years of letting go of all this childhood and trauma. Even I used to surf with sharks, and it just there's so much stuff put into us, and we pick it up like that movie Jaws, and there's so many things we would have picked up along the way with snakes, but that was those two experiences so far are deeply profound. Now it's possible, and maybe I'm still too asleep in some ways, still waking up, that other creatures are communing with me, and there will be this ongoing relationship we'll have with life itself. So, and I think that's how things would have been. That's why, to me, why children should be brought up by nature, because they evoke all these qualities that are natural. So I'm coming from an obese body, 68 years old, to this, and going through all these epiphanies and that for the last 20 years, in waking up and waking up and waking up and using common sense. I don't, as you know, I don't believe anything. I don't listen to anything anymore, but people tell me anything. I seek to, I apply the practice of scrutiny to see if what I'm thinking is fiction or not. And it's very easy to do. And this is covered in videos, so anyone who's going to go through these will know what I'm talking about, or will learn to do it themselves. So I get to know what is sensory and what is fiction, and now it's so really easy for me to work out which is which. So when you mentioned before about did the plants come from some other world or whatever you said, and and what is the sun and all these things? Well, you're in that AI pyramid, we talked about in the other video last week, and you've got all these scripts coming up all the time, triggered by images and symbols and sounds. And so we are vulnerable to these. They are attacks. We are vulnerable to these attacks because they are not our dreams. It's not our real life. It's not who we really are. And they form a confusion, or we can form an alignment with them. And from that comes righteousness and arrogance and indifference and all the other egocentric qualities, because we formed a sense of belonging and we believe that that is the truth, that definition is the truth, and that definition is the truth, and this whole language we're talking is the truth. And so we deceive who we really are. We lose our way. We become seriously blinded by this shadow world, this fiction, because you can't directly experience a life form because someone explained it to you, or you're recalling an explanation from way back that you're now experiencing again. Like the daffodil is yellow, and I'm looking at the life form. My head will be spinning with so much chit chat of alphabets and scripts that I can't sense that life form, and that shuts me down from that connection. So from that perspective, until one can get past all the belief systems, all the occults, all the mysticism, because all that is a distraction too, because they are not your dreams. You never created any of it. And your place in all of it doesn't have nothing. It's got nothing. So, and that's soullessness, by the way, because the intellect and the busyness of the intellect, which is coming from all that storage of people telling us how to think and feel and act, and being lost in that, it means that we're not actually developing a living soul, because we're not creating our unique dreams. Now, it's in that creating the unique dreams by that direct sensory experience with nature that we get to experience the sun, that we get to experience everything, and it communes with us directly instead of someone else explaining it. So another way of looking at it, in doing all the Life Insight work since started all this in 2005, I've had a plethora of people who have become brilliant at mimicking everything that I'm explaining. And they're in the imagining of the consciousness and freedom and the insights and that, but they actually didn't realize they're supposed to not be doing that. Instead, they're supposed to unravel, not listen to all the stuff in the head and start sensing it, because that's where they create the real man, where the real man comes, the real living good heart consciousness comes forward. So I've had in our life at the East Barrel House, before we vacated in early February 2019, it was often like Central Railway Station, people coming and going, because people wanted me to fix them. They won't say it. They wanted me to fix them. And so I knew that would become cultish if I turned that into a following. So basically, anyone who comes to follow me, I'll burn them off, because I'm not a cult. I'm not a cult leader. I'm not interested in anyone following me, nor us follow anyone else. It's about taking full responsibility for the dream of life and being a custodian, steward, caretaker, because we can't own it. So when you talk about, did plants come from another world? Well, do you own that? Because that's what a belief system is. You're actually owning it. And if you believe that, you're shutting down. You're going to, it's like what I say, that you can't own your last breath, drink, or meal. If you don't let go, you're going to die. If you hold on, you're going to die.
Yeah.
It'll be all over. I'll commit suicide. So we're actually committing the word spiritual suicide.
Yeah.
By getting aligned to the fictions and listen to all these scripts, which are just other people in our heads telling us how to think and feel. And all that chit-chat is all this stuff. As mentioned in other videos, who we really are is not in here. Only the fiction of what we've created through the self out of that memory bank that we're relying on to communicate in the matrix, to talk and do all the things we do, is there. But that's not who we are. None of it is who we are. I had that 2 weeks sleep in 2012. I don't know where I was. I mean, I've mentioned this before. And when Fiona helped the body come back, now I did not have any stroke or any. There was no. This wasn't caused by sickness. It was just winter sleep. And I won't go through all the fine details of what happened around my body that I kind of sort of remember. But when I came to, I had to relearn to walk because I had no balance anymore. And when I started learning to walk and I was starting to go down the end of the cul-de-sac in Roycroft Street, there's this development of a new botanical gardens in East Barrel. And I noticed that my senses were so heightened that I could read the fine print on the truck a kilometre away. And I'm going, whoa, whoa, that's too much. And then I saw a couple walking along Old South Road, at least a kilometre away, and I could zoom in and listen to the conversation. And I'm going, whoa, 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 whoa. And then as I was coming back from the walk, I noticed a couple of people I was talking to, I could see inside their bodies. And I'm going, whoa, I said, this is too much, this is too much. I don't want this responsibility, this is just too much. Because I was thinking if people knew that this was happening for me, I'd have a lineup of people from Bowell Railway Station to the house 5 kilometres away, and all of them will be there, not to see me, because they all want to be fixed. See, so what I'm trying to say is that in that 2 week sleep, and I came out of it, and the effects of that as I was returning, there was nothing in here. It was dead silent. There was no chit chat, nothing. And since that, I can do this regularly. I can just switch off. And this is empty. And what's left is the sensory experience around me. So that's why I've been able to expand the insights. So anyone who listens to the insights that this man is sharing, it's to challenge them to use scrutiny and contemplate and work it out for themselves. And if they think I'm lying, well, prove it to me. And this is always open. Anyone can prove anything. Prove logically to me that I'm lying about it or I got it wrong, whatever, about the insights that I shared. So, which no one can. All I get is accusations of a cult, accusations of this and that. In fact, this current off-grid group that I'm involved in at the moment, I've been posting about the Kingdom Dream, things we're doing. There's a whole interesting range of views and opinions and reactive feelings that I'm going to copy into a PDF file. I've already been doing it, and I'll post it, the whole thing, because it's just staggers me that how some people think that we're a cult or this or that, and because again, it's no different to you being told that plant comes from another world, because all they had done is they're in the scripts in here, recalling whatever imprints that they took on in the past about something cultish, so that when they come across something that's outside their box of because everything they think is in here, it's got to be controlled in here, which is the worst thing we can do, is to do that. So I comprehend the emotional reactions because they're all fantasies, illusions, and delusions. It's all of that, what we call the ego. The other thing to point out about this is that the reason it's E-go and E-motion, because the letter E is ecclesiastical. Now, every letter of the English language has a meaning they don't teach us at school. There's been a few letters that I talk about that I was exposed to back in 2005. I have oaths, I promise not to go into all of them because people try to use and they'll blow their feet off in the court system and that, and I'm not one to be responsible for all that, so I don't talk about it. And the guy who told me it all, who's now passed away, and I don't even use it most of the time either. I'm just aware that if something happens, I can apply it as what they call a script analysis, and I can look at things and see if there's another Orwellian doublespeak, triplespeak going on within the English language, because those who are initiated into this crap, that's what they do.
Yeah.
But to rewind, the reason I'm sort of going into this sort of stuff is to point out that it's not going to lead us to it's not going to lead us to anything of truth. It's just going to keep us bamboozled keep us discombobulated, keep us mesmerized, distracted, um, in a plethora of definitions that other people's intentions have had an effect on me and became the ego and the emotion, because E for ecclesiastical, being the high priest, right up in the highest levels of Freemasonry in the occults, who crafted the original Old English language and then transitioned it to the New English language from the 9th century. And they called it the New World Language. So they'd already planned this programming way back then for this New World Order, a round table of Freemasons, like a King Arthur's round table, but many, many of them all holding hands across earth to form this one world government, one world religion, one world, all this sort of stuff. This is going on. This is no argument. This is all happening before us, before our eyes.
So what you're saying, Arthur, is unless we totally unplug, okay, and when I say unplug, it's distraction,
From here,
TV, everything that puts stuff into our heads, there, we will probably never be able to sense this life for what it is.
because
'Cause-
what I'm trying to just to when we give our life energy to an image, to a symbol, um, because we believe and have faith in it and have opinions about it, when we recall that image or script, because that's what letters are, alphabet letters are, they're triggers.
Yeah.
And then when you form them into words, they formulate you're evoking, we're recalling, basically recalling. Look, let me explain this recalling so that we get back to this. And this has been covered in videos, years and years ago that are on the YouTube channel. Think of little Mary as a man, like you and I. We're all man. We can touch, taste, feel, smell, hear. Little Mary, she's a man. And little Mary is in the scripts of Alice in Wonderland. Now, little Mary is present with the presence or presence of life. We can touch, taste, feel, smell, hear, see little Mary all the time. She's always present. The living is always present. The truth is always present before us. But all the time she's performing Alice in Wonderland and the scripts, even if she set up a stage and props and everything, Alice is not present with the presence of life. We can't sense Alice ever, nor can we sense anything to do with Alice in Wonderland. It's not here amongst us, the living. All we're doing is imagining. So we can be in the audience watching little Mary performing Alice in Wonderland in front of 100,000 of us. And we all, at the end of the show, could all stand up and applaud and go, bravo, fantastic show. But that is not proof of fact that at any time that Alice in Wonderland existed, ever. The only thing that ever existed was Mary and the props of nature, and whatever was used or were distorted into becoming props from trees and living things, So that's when I'm talking about these triggers and going back. There's so many things we're recalling that are not present before us. Like we talked before about the snake and phobias and things. They're not present before me. The fears of snakes. And all these things have come from the intentions of others who have wanted me to be in that experience that they had created for me, thinking they're doing the right thing by thinking they're going to protect me by playing out all that emotional drama about a snake or a shark. Well, this goes into relationships now. We can go into every facet of doubt, fear, uncertainty, distrust, complacency, apathy, denial, arrogance, ignorance, power and control trips. Everything to do with the ego is this E-go. We formed, basically, we were compelled, we acquiesced to that intention from someone else who's now in our head, and we're now carrying it out. We're in action. And that's why they're in our heads. And the whole of the system through all Hollywood, television, social media, news media, internet, iPads, everything is to be in our heads so that we can be reacting because we are representing the fiction that isn't present before us. You follow? So if they call you, Arthur Cristian, to the courtroom, I'm invisible. I don't even exist. I'm not going to represent a fiction. I'm not a fiction. I'm the living man. So when I was talking about using scrutiny and contemplating to work out whether it's fiction or not, this is what you come back to realize, am I representing something that isn't even here? And that's when you get to realize how deep the fantasy, the illusion, delusion of the occults that educated us into the alphabet languages, so that we would formulate all the constructs and concepts, right? And then play out the roles of all the constructs and concepts and the definition meanings that become all the scripts of the language we are talking. That's AI. And really, if we go back to the previous video, that pyramid, the whole pyramid from the bottom all up is AI, because the alphabet language is AI. And all the constructs and concepts are AI. And all of it is alien. It's completely alien because it isn't real. You can't go to nature and to experience any of it directly from a life form. Nothing. So, you know, in the early days, I through a friend of mine, Glenn, who told me a few little things about this, and it really blew me away. You know, I was imagining, you know, when you go to Macquarie Bank, well, all you're doing when you go to something like Macquarie Bank, you're going to a man acting as Macquarie Bank and the scripts of Macquarie Bank. You're also going to the many men and women who built the building, the constructs, and the concept of that building of Macquarie Bank. But it's a fiction. It's not part of nature, and nothing of nature needs it to exist so they can exist and perpetuate, right? But where a cow has its calf and the calf grows up and it produces progeny and all that, and on it goes. And so I use that analogy of with the megaphone. Hello, Macquarie Bank. Please come forward. Can you talk to me, please? Hello, Supreme Court. Hello, High Court. Hello, Judge. Hello, Barrister. Hello, Lawyer. Now, that's no different to Alice in Wonderland. I'm saying, hello, Alice. Please come forward. Please talk to me, Alice. I don't want a man coming forward acting as Alice and talking to me. I want to talk to Alice. Right, so when someone tells you that plant has come from another world, well, hello, plant, please come forward. Can I talk to you, please? I don't want another man in my head representing the fiction of that plant or the sun. So we are all, as in Francis Bacon, the 33rd degree Freemason, who was William Shakespeare. He said that, you know, all the world's a stage and we're all just actors on the stage, sort of thing, right? It's telling you the truth, blatantly telling you the truth, because the whole of the system, every facet of system life is the representing of the scripts that forms the props and the stage and the rules and the regulations, the rituals, the procedures, and all of it is the intentions of others inside our head, fought with pressure. Because remember, we come from ancestral tribes and villages who were invaded, decimated. And all that trauma is all accumulated across the generations. And that same tyrannical imperial forces are still in power today through the bloodlines and through the Freemasonic, high-level Freemasonic orders, societies, where the secrets of all these things are kept, and because they're the ones behind the power of government and law and literature and every facet of system life. They're the ones in power. And they're in your head right now, because behind the alphabet language we talk is them. And we've learned to acquiesce and comply and project, set into motion those intentions, which are emotions, E-motions, E-go. If I have a child and I keep putting my intentions into a child, I can cause my child to set into motion all the images and scripts that I put in my child's head through the language of this fiction and watch my child perform it. For example, I could sit my child on my lap, read the scripts of Superman while the child's watching the pictures as I'm talking to my child, I'm sitting in my lap. And through inculcation, repetition, I can have my child reach such a point of that fervor, of that ego, emotion, that the child will go and take furniture from the living room, move it all around, go and grab the costume, wear Superman, and then start playing out the props of the scripts of Superman that the child had been exposed to through my reading of Superman to my child.
How many
And that,
children do this?
oh, we're in adult fairy tales because we practice them as children in children fairy tales. That's the way it works.
Yeah, yeah.
So that, and they also give you the symbol, like Alice through the looking glass. You're looking through the scripts. You're in the storyland. That's what Hollywood's all about. This is what the whole system, and none of it's happening. It's not present before us. None of it. It's here. None of it's here. Alice is not here. Wonderland is not here, and never has been here. Yet we're imagining that it is. So the fear of snakes and the fear of sharks and the fear of the tax department and the fear of making money, the fear of doing whatever we do, having to buy land title and all the stuff we do in commerce, none of it's here. It ain't real. But everyone's compelled. And they're complying because they're acquiescing. Because of that threat and intimidation and incarceration and in the older days, murder. You didn't stick, remember when the Romans and all the Greeks and all the old days, it was all overt slavery. They would invade. And if they win that battle, they're in charge. And they may surround that village with their own garrisons or, their centurions and their soldiers. But it is an outright threat at all times. Now, the Australian flag, the American flag, the Canadian flag is a Pax Romanus.
Yeah.
It's a peace treaty, but it's not really, where the subjugated are still under a state of war across the generations because we gave our life over to them, these Freemasons, high level, which is international, and we've been subjugated ever since. So, when you get like thousands of statutes coming out of bills in Parliament, it's the Freemasons higher up who are doing most of this, or they're lackeys, they're just drones who have become politicians or whatever, just carrying out all the dirty work without being conscious of what the hell they're doing. They don't even know what they're doing because it's all fiction, 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 fiction. So, when someone tells you that's a plant from another world, well, straight away you can see it's a fiction because you have to just say, "Oh, hello, plant, please come forward. I don't want to listen to someone who told me that you came from another world. I want to talk to you directly so I can directly experience it from you because that becomes the truth."
So,
right?
real wisdom is only found in nature. It's only
in reality, once you realize what reality really is.
Yeah,
exactly. That's why I don't. That's why for 20 years I dropped the name, and I don't represent that ID because that's a fiction. That's not me, and I'm not going to allow that fiction to be subjugated into a world of Roman civil law, which is all to do with commercial contracts, where I've never harmed anybody, I've never injured anyone, never broken the peace, never committed a crime, etc. And yet I could be fined because I went 5 kilometers faster in a zone where I was supposed to, instead of doing 80, I went and did 85. And I got a $500 fine in the mail. Now, that $500 in the mail that I have to send to them, if this was to happen to me, not that it doesn't, that's why I don't have the ID, is my fruits of labor. And I have to work for that fruits of labor to accrue that $500. Then I have to then pay that fine. Right? Now, that's extortion. This is rape, pillage, and plunder. This is not protecting the community. This is not the psyops. They said, "Oh, we need all the police cameras to protect us all." I remember growing up in the 60s, before all this was happening, there was always an element of the wild and reckless amongst the youth that I was part of. But we didn't have many deaths. Now, you look at how many times we hop in a car and drive a car every day. Every single vehicle, from couriers to transport, whatever, to mums and dads and going to school and shopping and to us going to work. And, we're going to have millions and millions of journeys every day. Every day. What's the death toll in contrast to that? It'll be less than 0.000%, 1%. And yet we have police cameras everywhere. We must protect each other. Because the revenue raising is the real agenda, because they want to drain your resources, your life energy, converted into fictional dollars. And remember too, we're also now dealing with inflation because the dollar back in the 60s and the early 70s was a dollar. And the buying power of the dollar is a dollar then is like $800 today. But because the dollar is now 1 cent, the amount of work you've got to do and having two parents working or have a couple of kids go through school, and all the pressures are all under, and they can't even keep it all together and survive, really properly survive without all the stress and all that shit going down, which is impacting more than 90% of the population of Australians, yet alone Canadians and Americans. This is going on everywhere, this crap. So the extortion becomes even worse because our buying power to earn the dollar and then pay the $500 statute fine, right? It becomes these are now covert whips. This is punishment. This is true punishment. In the overt system, if you weren't listening, doing, okay, go and pick up that rock. And if you don't, they go, whoosh, whoosh, pick up that rock. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll pick up the rock, Okay, I'm going to pay the fine. Yes, I did, So this whole thing of statutes is all about commerce. And it's a fake life energy where we have been treated like a part of a beast phenomena because they see us as beasts, as goy, as useless food eaters. And this is why we're seeing so much horror and injustice in the world as we grew up, just to see just the scale of suffering that goes on. So when I woke up to all this and I dropped the name, I'm removed. It takes years because I just don't engage. I don't use the name. I don't use signature. I don't perform in commerce. I don't do business under the name. I used to have it go into Facebook or YouTube, but I'm not doing business. I don't collect revenue from everything I do. I do everything for free and put it out there like the sun's shining, but I don't ask anything back. If someone wants to gift, they can gift if they wish, but it's up to them. I don't ask for it in that way. So I am free from all of that now, completely free. I'm not a fiction in their law. So local council does not work with me in this land that I stand on. State government, all its agencies, doesn't work with me with this land that I stand on because I'm the highest power here now. I'm a living man. I'm not a fiction. And fiction doesn't work with me. If they want to try and take my body and bring it into their court, they'll be defeated instantly. And they will be hammered because every lie is a curse. And those who lie are processing curses. And when you comprehend how the occults work, you can actually deal with these people right up to the highest levels and make them process it. And I'm not joking about this stuff, but it's just let me finish. What I'm trying to get at here is that if you can comprehend the scale of deception in worshiping fiction and building a life in fiction, you can see why we are in such a terrible state today, because we can't sense. We don't know how to sense anymore, which is a natural thing that we all got. We might get little windows of it occasionally, but it should be a constant all the time in communion with life itself. Because the truth is, we are not separated from the earth and nature. We are earth and nature. We are the land. You can't separate the man and the land. It is what we are as life, as the collective of life. So that's the journey I'm on in addressing as a non-violent, very peaceful, I don't want to start up more fires, in dealing with this lie. And if they want to come after me, I welcome it. Because then I can apply all this. I know how to route out Alice in Wonderland. I know how to route out all this stuff. But
you said we are the land. Is that why the word island is island? Because we're all little islands on
except that we're individuals, where the eye is the all-seeing eye. We're separated from the land. That's why it's an island.
Okay.
Because the eye is the ego. It's the storehouse of the memory of all that stuff. And we rely on that to do business in the system, because that's what the system is built for by these people. So we're sailing our fictional vessel on the oceans of alphabets, going from port to port, port to port, bringing on cargo, moving cargo, and doing contracts and business all the time. But it's all, we're in an ocean of alphabets. All of it is pure fantasy, illusion, and delusion. Every facet of it. It's just been an evolution of this covert system of slavery. Because from my perspective, the Old Testament was covert slavery. The New Testament is overt slavery. And the change from overt to covert was because too many uprisings were going on amongst all their slaves and whatever they were in control over. And so losses of life on all sides kept happening. And they wanted to cut that down and stop that kind of loss of life to them. One of the reasons why in gender today they've attacked men for a long time now to try and destroy men, because it was men protecting women in their villages, and they were the ones who'd put the witches up on the stake and burn them. They were the ones who'd go and kill anyone who tries to get in someone's head to control them through voodoo or whatever else they want to use in their occultic practices. It was their greatest threat to these occultists was man, us. And this is why they've gone to so much trouble to manipulate through gender, to try and shut us down and make everything politically correct and bring in all this garbage to turn men into pussycats who don't even know what they are and don't even know who they really are anymore. They don't know how to protect the domain of their family, their real family on the land.
Yeah.
It's just so gone in that way. There are some of us. I do that for Fiona.
So some
And
of
there are
us
other
are
friends.
doing it, but the vast majority of men today, they have a lot
That's
of
the
work.
reason why. And the other reason why, the story of in when you read the story of in their Old Testament books, where they've got to go, the Pharaoh or the priest of Israel wants to go and seek out the firstborn and every child and kill them all and get rid of them all because they were a potential threat, because one of them could be the Messiah or the Savior in their story, right? And going back to Egypt, the threat to the Pharaoh himself. You see these same repetitions, but this is why they introduced vaccination. This is why they used alchemy and chemical poisoning. Look, the immune system is incredibly powerful. And when you're living in nature, it's very strong. So wherever you see invasion by these people through the history books, you remember the victors always write the history, they introduced their alchemy. They introduced their germs. They introduced all these things that they manufactured to attack and kill us. Even today, they have to get rid of everyone who has an influence over public thinking,
Yeah.
because the Freemasons want to control the outcome of what they're planning for. They don't want other people to speak from the heart, from the conscience, and speak out to influence public thinking that would alter the outcome. So this is why they use many drugs. Many of them also can be invisible kind of stuff. And you see very famous people dying of cancer and dying of all these things because they were targeted and they didn't even know by the drink that they were given. Now, this is really what goes on, because the only way you can control and maintain that power is to have a range of different tactics you've got to use. You know what I mean? So there are many, many good people. I've experienced an onslaught from doing Love for Life. I mean, a serious onslaught of this stuff. So many forms of attack, including being poisoned and letting that pass through my body. I'm not joking about this, because there's a greater thing around us. We get help. We get, there are a lot of things that where that kind of intervention can happen. And because you work with that good heart and you don't have any fear or doubt to call in and play out that kind of destructive emotional shit to compromise your strength, your power. Not power as in something, hey, I'm Goliath and I'm just going to, be Godzilla and I'm going to use my force and rule over you. It's not about that. It's to make sure that no one crosses the line to come to harm you or your family or the land that you're on, and protect it. And that's why the Romans had huge battles back in the Germanic areas, and that, because they were very strong men. And these are the kind of men all through Scandinavian, what called the Vikings and all that, who would kill anyone. They found anyone trying to get into their kids' heads, playing out the stuff that goes on today, because they knew that was dangerous. And I'm not into the murder side of stuff, but I'm pretty strong about, if you catch people like that doing it, they need to be incarcerated, and if not, murdered by a collective who realize what they've done to hurt so many people. Because most people are innocent. They don't know. They're not conscious of all that scripts playing out from that memory that controls their vessel. Like I talk about the pirates with the black skull and bones on their ship, and they're sailing across the seas of alphabets, and they see another vessel that's just been given birth, and it's a child in the womb, in the commerce of the mother, and so they'll go and attack that child to try and weaken the defenses. So they go and attack the vessel, like you see in pirate movies, and to weaken it, so they can then board it, so they can take over control of the helm, and put in place their own person while they boot out. Either put them on the plank and send them over the plank to die in the ocean, or they put them deep down in the bow, handcuffed, hog-tied, and all that, silent, out of the way. So the vessel is in control by them. And that's what that person with the alphabets, building up the memory. So you would form the fiction of the Arthur Christian, and that is what's going to be in the sitting at the helm and controlling the vessel, controlling which direction, because they're telling you which way to go and what to do, because it all comes from the scripts. It's all mapped out. It's all predetermined. This is still going on now, today, everywhere.
So would you include in this the prophecy in the Bible and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's self-fulfilling. If I can get you to dream what I want you to dream. Now remember, thoughts, feelings, and dreams are all one and the same. There is no separation. Dreams are feelings, and we've been trained to have intellectual property associated with it. But the real thoughts, pre all this brainwashing, are feelings. And the whole of life is a consciousness that is a substance. You can touch that substance. It's not a hologram. It lives. It's alive. You can touch, taste, feel, smell, hear, see the substance of life. And it's always present to us. Always present. Just because the brain's been bamboozled and we're imagining fantasy, superimposing fantasy over everything, like the potato sack you're putting over the life form, because we're thinking daffodil and yellow and all the scripts and science and in our head is recalling. And the potato sack is shrouding the life form in darkness, so we can't sense its purpose as it's communing with us, because all of life's communing with us all the time. We've shut it off because we're in the scripts now, projecting the scripts of the matrix. So if I can get you to dream what I want you to dream and get you to direct your energy to it, set it into motion through your belief, faith, and associated opinion with that script, with that dream, I'll get you to create it. So slaves will create a world in their master's image without realizing. And the stealth is so subtle and the manipulation is so powerful. And this is what they do all the time. And this is what's behind Corona. Now, the wars with Iran. And it goes on and on. 9/11, London 7/7 bombings, I could just go on and on and on about the psyops and Port Arthur massacre, and on it goes. It's just the Diana Spencer assassination, and on it goes. There's just so many of these things. It's just it's beyond comprehension, the cruelty and the horrors of what these people are doing, and how much you have to sell out, how you sell out to it as well. But you have to comprehend it's self-fulfilling, because if you are my child, you're sitting on my lap, and we are in 300 BC, and I'm reading you the prophecy of Ezekiel, for example, or whatever, and you're sitting on my lap and I'm talking to you about the scripts, and I'm putting that into you because my father did it to me, or whoever did it to me, and I'm projecting it onto you. And it talks about the end times of what's going to happen. It is a man who's thinking it. It's a man who projected it. Who's a man who invented it. And it's a man who's breathing out that stuff. So we went from me to you to your son, to my grandson, and to my great-grandson, grandson. And we went right through until now, here we are today, with the book still there, the same book that they called 350 BC, whatever they made up. And it's a man to the experience of the words of the prophecy. So it's a placebo. We are creating it because we're dreaming it, we're thinking it, and we're creating its outcome. So the whole Bible's full of this kind of stuff. It is crap because it's self-fulfilling. It's not happened because of some amazing, mysterious thing from some incredible archangel and God who spoke and communed with us to do all that. It was a deceit by the Freemasons and the cleverness and the guile to control how you're dreaming so that you will project that dreaming and through the generations set to a calendar which they made up as well. The months, the dates, the years, the seconds, and so this is how they hold it. They can hold it in present sense, the fiction, as we think it and pass it on through each generation. As the evolution of the Bible, of how we're going to bring about the changes all centered around Israel and this vast, large piece of land that Israel has been prophesied to have, which takes in a lot of the Middle Eastern countries. It's huge. And the wars that have been going on in Israel all comes from the Old Testament. Through Abraham and Moses and on it goes. It's crafted by the occults. This is not, you can't go to the Bible. Hello, Bible, please talk to me. Please come forward. I don't want to listen to a man talking on your behalf, representing you. Can you please talk to me? Hello? There's nothing there. There's silence. Hello, Moses. Hello, Moses. Hello, Jesus. Hello, Abraham. Please come forward. Nothing there. So we can set into motion the placebo effect. Now, another thing to explain before I let you go what you wanted to ask me or talk about, it's the same thing with the images of Jesus and the modalities and the scripts surrounding Jesus. Now, you got to remember, it works because it's all affected by slaves who have been under the oppression of the dominating occupying forces of all the ancient Greeks and the Romans and all the other occupying forces that have come through the bloodlines to what it is today. So all that trauma is still present to us here and now. And we can be easily manipulated because of that, because we're spoon-fed. We're seriously spoon-fed in a covert system of slavery. We can accept the image and the scripts of Jesus and how much Jesus loves us. But because every man who thought of Jesus and gave love to Jesus directed all the image, directed all that into the image of Jesus, all that life energy, all that sincere love. And every other man who loved Jesus is going into Jesus as well, into that symbol. Whether it's a crucifixion, doesn't matter what it is. And that collective life energy, when someone else comes along and gives themselves to Jesus, can be healed by that because it's been healed by every other man and woman and child who gave the energy to it. Because it's man-made. But it can deceive us because from the bigger picture, they're in the system of the church that's controlled by these Freemasons, who controls the synagogue, who controls, the mosques. It controls the auditoriums and amphitheaters and all that. And everything is self-fulfilling because we don't realize the sleight of deception in how we've been manipulated because we're breathing it out. We're breathing it out and creating it as a collective. Everyone else is doing it. And then from that, you can get fanaticism and people, and all kinds of stuff. And it's very easy to drop in bad guys and all that amongst all the good guys to play out the role of the devil and all the bad satanic stuff going on. The other thing with people who die, who are lost in fiction, and they don't know what else they are, they remain, it continues on for them in fiction. And so they become the haunted houses and the ghosts you see around crematoriums and plaques and in cemeteries. And you'll see, because it's all manipulated, because those who died like that, they never created a soul. They're never going to be part of the eternal life because they never created a life. They're in the fiction the whole time. They're in the scripts. And it's lethal when you die like that. But that's why there's so much confusion going on amongst us in the system that we're living in, because it only ever happens in the system. Because what is the system? If you think about it, that pyramid I talked about with A at the top, what really is from the bottom to the top, man, us, us. So without us, none of this is happening. Without us, all the scripts and all the building blocks and all the progress of civilization, all the inventions and all that stuff, right? And how I talk about this again, you think about here we are today, and we have a history of amazing messiahs and saviors and holy books and wisdoms. We have all this amazing technology, engineering, and incredible feats of what man's done. But look at the mess we're all in today. If there was one truth in all of that, you think we'd all be in paradise now, but we're not, because something else is going on. And that's what I've been revealing through this work. What is it that is going on that's deceiving us, and how we've been manipulated? We create our own bad guys and good guys. The phobia I had with the snakes, it went. I still have the odd little bit of trepidation. Another one. When I unplugged from the system in 2005 and started the Love for Life work, the feeling of Sunday coming up to lead to Monday, I used to get that dread because of my business life for 20 years when I ran business and had a lot of staff and did all that stuff and making big money, all that kind of stuff, or good money. That feeling of, Monday. Now, gradually across the years, I started forgetting Monday to Friday and Saturday. I sometimes asked, what day are we in? And what I noticed, that dread also disappeared too. I never had that come up for me anymore about Sunday to Monday. It's the same thing that's happened with the snakes. I no longer have, well, most of it affecting me about snakes. I mean, there's still the thing about...
Just keep going, Arthur. I'll be back.
That's all right. That's all right. So
I'll
it's the same with the
unfreeze
brown
this and I'll
snakes.
be back.
So it's the same thing that will happen with all the scripts that we have given so much energy to and blown them up into a physical material form. So we call banks and governments and religions and holy houses and all that. They're just the same as the Alice in Wonderland and the props, and we're all on stage performing the scripts. Because behind it all, it's just a man who created the scripts, who influenced another man who added to the scripts and garnished it, and it just went from there and there and there. And that's all it is. That's the system. There's a man, one man, who started it, who they call the grand architect, or they refer to him as Satan or Lucifer or Baal or Ahriman, the devil. There are many names to this guy. He was a man. He created the covert system of slavery. And it's in that,
Come back.
it's in that the whole New Age movement has been manipulated by them. I mean, the evidence of that, it was the Roman Catholic Church and the Jesuits who created the Quran.
Now, since we're in around that topic, it's something I heard often is the 200 fallen angels. Like, is that 200
what?
fallen angels on earth that would have fall down, I don't know, from above or something from the stars? I don't know. Fallen angels. What is that? 200 fallen angels.
I don't know. All I know is that all the stars I'm looking at are my ancestors, your ancestors. It's a living creation. It's not galaxies and planets and all that. It's all bullshit. Everything we've been taught through astronomy and astrology is all crap. Again, hello, astrology. Hello, Mars. Hello, Venus. Please come forward and talk to me. I don't want another man telling me everything about what you are. I want to hear it directly from you. I want to directly experience it from you. Now, you think of the scale of the scripts and how much we've been exposed to. Now, this is no different to a little child with a fascination with a magnifying glass who goes through school and starts learning to work with telescopes and microscopes and then ends up in university and comes out with a degree, and all those years of accumulation of inculcation, plus what's been garnished by everyone else who got caught up in it. And now he's a scientist looking through telescopes and microscopes, and everything he is looking at of life itself is not coming from what he's picking up, what he's hearing and thinking. It's not coming from what he's looking at. It's coming from that his story, her story. It's not coming from anything. And it's a complete disconnect. But they really believe it to be true. And that's why when we're so disconnected like that, we can carve a mountain open. We can do the most incredible atrocities to life forms. Now, we're all complicit. We're all hypocrites. I'm wearing headphones. That's all come from life forms and mice and mouse pads and this drink bottle. And We are so compromised, and we are incredible hypocrites when we talk about this and in the awakening. But that doesn't mean we can't still be making changes to start to cut back, to start turning back, stop living out of fiction. But the first thing we've got to conquer is this. We've got to get rid of this in here, all the imagining, because who we are is all around us. It's sensory. And that's exactly how all of nature works. You don't see nature communicating with alphabets as a natural thing. You don't see all of nature going to school to learn about fiction, so before they could do anything about what they are doing in life itself. Everything is done through senses,
So
smell,
after
sound, taste.
super consciousness, we can also relate this to superpowers. Now, can I bend the spoon just looking at it?
Of course you can. If that's what your dream is, and you want to, you know, expand on that, discipline and focus, you can. For me, that's a waste of time. I'd rather be focusing on creating trees and planting, because that's life that I
I
can
get
pass
it.
on to my children. You bending the spoon, I can't do anything for my children. Can't eat that. They can't breathe it. They can't drink it. They can't do anything to make a difference to the community. I can just sit there and be amazed by wow, 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 but it does nothing. What does it do, really? It just okay. We're good at that.
So would you
But
say
when
that
you
magician that go on stage and perform like super heavy stuff like, that you cannot even perceive the trick, this is like
The trick is that
superpowers?
you've forgotten who you are. That's the real trick. You've forgotten who you are, that you are life, and you're here to nurture and expand life, because that's all that exists. It's life itself. That's why we're creating a paradise on this 26.88 acres. It's not just creating a village. It's it's the whole village is busy in the creativity of creating waterways and getting the water to move around the whole property so we can hear the sound of water all the time. To create, in the keyline system, get the water to move across smaller streams. We make all this, do it all. And then from that, we work out the simple gravel roadways and pathways, and then build timber bridges over the roadways, and then put in food forests and native gardens and native habitats and feather-friendly environments and swimming holes, large swimming holes and smaller swimming holes, creating flowers and beauty all over the place and turning it into a living paradise with small hubs or homes amongst it all, to set a living example of what we are, to remind others what we're capable of, that we don't have to grovel in the system and live in all that nightmare stuff with fictional dollars and like surviving fiction and fiction and fiction and being so brainwashed we want to run around with guns, killing things all over the place. Look, the scale of this thing is just what we've done. We're all complicit in it. We're all responsible. I'm fully responsible because I was a consumer of all of that. I was a materialist with all of that. And now I'm working on changing it. So that's why I'm focusing on creating life here on this piece of land to be the magnificence and the abundance, the tranquility, and the true freedom of a living example how village life used to be long ago before invasion began in here. Before invasion came with intimidation and threats and violence and war and all that. When we get back to that, you realize that all the stories that we came from the dark ages is bullshit. All the stories that came from the dinosaurs and the way it was prescribed, many of these Tyrannosaurus rex were made on plaster on Paris. There's so much evidence about this. Anyone wants to do the real homework, they'll realize what's going on with the Smithsonian Institute and others. They're the skeletons of our original ancestors. Everything was so much bigger and taller because the air was much richer and the pollen was more intense. So everything grew bigger. There was an experiment, I think Tokyo Expo back in the 80s, I think it was. And they made it inside a glass dome. They put one tomato plant in it, and they tried to recreate an intense oxygen environment. And this tomato plant kept growing past the 6 months. Apparently, it grew and grew for something like a couple of years, and it produced thousands of fruits and didn't die. Now, wherever you go on Earth, you'll find evidence of much bigger dogs, much bigger cats, much bigger bears, much bigger man, because everything was so much bigger. Because the oxygen was so rich and the pollen was so incredibly intense that we were bigger. Everything was bigger. We've
Bigger
shrunk
trees.
down now. We've really shrunk down. So under the oceans were the evidence of all this. Because that,
So you think those massive tree stumps were remaining of trees?
yeah. I will not be surprised that Ayers Rock was once a tree. You know, the Jack and Beanstalk myths and all that's true.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
Avatar movie series it touches on true. It's like communism was used to white and true homesteads of the Vedic culture of the old Russian ways in Siberia and all that, and how Russians lived, and how all the Vedic culture lived that way. And that's what the Ringing Cedars books touches on all through that. You can see that. So they created communism associated with Lenin and Trotsky and all that. But you know, really, that communism is no different to capitalism, and it's no different to socialism.
Socialism, yeah.
So you know, and so it's all one and the same. It's exactly all one and the same thing. When you open your eyes and realize what's going on here, because really, what's behind capitalism is a tiny few. What's behind communism is a tiny few. But when you get to the real things that we're talking about, the real community stuff, it's a co-creation where everybody's a custodian, student, caretaker. There will be wisdom keepers amongst it, but they're not leaders. They're just responsible to make sure that the tribe is intact and nothing outside's coming to mess with it. Probably all that evolved into this because of the original psychic attack from long and long ago in the early times of invasion, right? Because if
So
you can conquer
how
someone's head,
how should the world be governed, Arthur?
local, but not governed. You need to
Not
be living
governed.
locally amongst a village or a tribe of locals where everyone knows each other, because that's where we all came from. All the invasions was to the villages and tribes long ago. We are all the descendants of all of our ancestors who lived in tribes and villages and nomadic villages, of nomadic
So
tribes.
do you agree also that me in Canada here, I shouldn't be aware of everything that's going on in Australia, really, and New
It's
Zealand
not your
and
dream. It's not
Japan
your
and
dream.
this and that? Because
All the time,
normally,
all the time, all the time you're caught up in the theatrics of Hollywood and
yeah.
television and media and wars. It's not your dream. All the time this is happening, you're not creating your local life because that local, everyone knows each other. Pedophiles won't thrive amongst that. All the harm doing will stop. All the sickness and disease will go away gradually because no one's going to play it out with each other. If anyone got caught doing it, they'd be killed. The tribe will kill them off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or they'll come up with some incredible type of incarceration to deal with such a harm doer like that, which is going to have to happen to these occultists because we have to get rid of them, all of them, because they're just the most terrible pariah. And they honestly think that they've got impunity. That's why I do what I do, the work that I do, because we've got to stop this madness. So the remedy is local, because that is where you create your dreams and where you build the life of that. Now, whether you decide you want to go on journey and meet another tribe and all that, there's nothing wrong about that, because you might meet another partner, because you may not want to marry within the village, to keep the blood as pure as possible. So that could have happened, or definitely happened, but it's local. Where I've mentioned in other videos about these people come, these imperial invaders come to these lands, they set up a colony with their convicts and all that. I'm not saying Captain Cook and Captain Phillip and stuff, because it's pretty obvious now. It goes back to the 9th century, what was really going on here from Europe. But the long story of this is that it's very easy to create a colony amongst immigrants and migrants that we call convicts, and others who came on ships, and amongst the sailors who also became part of that colony. And that becomes, in the analogy of this, like a local council, like a local group. And then they have another one over there and another one over there. So then they could go, we've got to organize all these different groups that are unfolding, because, we had a colony growing in Sydney, another one in Parramatta, another one further out in Goulburn, another one over here and that. So let's create a state government now to stop all the problems that are happening at the local level amongst all the local colonies. So that became another, in the pyramid, another plank of this. And then as the states were developing, and we got, we had federation, all that here in Australia. And then we, well, in fact, you really could go back before all this federation really unfolded. But then you have, okay, we're having problems amongst the states. We better create a national power structure to control all the problems of the states, or can control all the problems at the local level. So now we got the Commonwealth of Australia. a government, federal government, with the power over all the state governments, who have their various freedoms to deal with all the local. And then they brought in the local council to deal with what was local, even though they're not constitutional. That there's a lot of this about this sort of stuff. So that is another kind of trick in how they played it out. So we have to undo the pyramid. Now, if we don't, we're going to end up with such incredible devastation, because the fiction that we're setting into motion by everyone who is worshipping fiction and all the scripts and all the emotions, all that, they're saying that we love fiction, that we love fiction more than life. So they're creating a world of fiction because they don't want to be part of life. They're saying we don't want to be part of life anymore, that dream of life. So this is why we end up with an apocalypse of earth-wide proportions, because man is saying we don't want to be part of life. And all the fictions they built, in the old days, you can see the remains of them. And then you go through the forest, and the forest has grown over and covered up all the old temples and pyramids and outhouses and all the things they did. But there's no different to what's happening today with skyscrapers and cities and all the things we're doing with AI. We're reaching the point where everyone will just die and they won't even know that they're gone. But there will be an extinction. Now, I call this the red fever. That's just me. I called it the red fever, and it's a fever that'll come so fast, less than 24 hours, to wipe people out. Because while amongst us, amongst man, who love the dream of life, who love life, and the ancestors who shine down, who love the dream of life, the dream of life of earth and all that will be protected by that love, by that commitment, which means that it's like having a fever. If you introduce corruption into your body, distortion to your body, and you still want to live, and your body's saying, well, which way do you want to go? Do you want to live, or do you want to start getting rid of all this stuff you keep putting through your mouth and what you're breathing in, all this toxicity and all that? And you say, well, I want to live. You may not talk like this, but you'll be thinking, I still want to have life. I want to live. So your body will create, because you created it, a fever. And you're going to have diarrhea.
Yeah.
Right? That's lava, volcanic eruption. You're going to have sweating and all that, and vomit. There's tsunamis and rain coming down. Huge, Noah floods. And then you've got all the volcanic stuff, all the everything rising up and going down. We have a fever, so our body can release out as much as possible of that crap to restore some life back in our body. If we're eating life and drinking life and thinking life and dreaming life, we'll begin to change it. So the extremes of the fiction that people worship and fight for and live for, because they just believe that's who they are, is coming to this penultimate moment, an instance of absolute separation of the ways, because life will carry on forevermore as eternal, while fiction will have nothing, because there was always nothing from the beginning. And when it was first thought of, there's nothing there of life. And that's why you see the remains of the other civilizations were all fiction, with all their politics and government and everything you think. That's why they are there, sitting there empty, ghostly. So we're going to see this before our eyes, and we will know, those amongst all of us, whoever, will know where to be, where to live, where it's going to be safe. Instinctively, they will know to avoid it.
Just to
we're living in
we're
that
gonna
end times prophesied from long ago.
Yeah, we're gonna have to finish this one soon. But just to finish, I would like to hear you on something. If God is love, if love is the ultimate feeling we can have and we can share here, is that super consciousness found with love, in love, rising in love, focusing on love, on sharing love, on
The
being
the
lovey, on
the
being
love
kind?
the love you're talking about, the love you are talking about is the creativity,
Yeah, the
where
me,
we're
I'm
working
talking
with
love for
nurture.
higher and divine.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's a creativity. It's not an idea, an imaginary
No, no,
construct.
no. That's
It's
it.
a doing.
Yes,
It's a
yes.
doing thing. So it's a creativity.
Becoming the
So
word
the
in the
B to the
physical
hive,
form. Yeah,
yeah, but it's not a word. It's a living
or
feeling. It's
whatever.
living consciousness. So the bee to the hive and the busyness of the bee is the creativity of that life that it lives for. You can call that love. But that
Okay.
love is also full responsibility too, because the bee is fully responsible in its purpose and will not alter its purpose or alter anything else of the hive's purpose. And it will not alter the purpose of every other living thing that interacts with in the ecosystems of life itself, because the whole collective is a love as well. It has a purpose. And everything's busy in the creativity of that life. That's again why we're creating this kingdom here, this paradise, because that love is a creativity. So people who come in, we're not here to talk about all this sort of stuff we're talking about. We're going to be busy waking up and going to bed in the creativity of life itself, to recreate a paradise and live amongst it and enjoy it, and use that as a living example to inspire others to get back to doing that at a local level. And
Yeah.
if we get enough of us doing this, then there's a good opportunity there where we could turn the tide on a lot of the force of this earthwide calamity that's coming down on us, because we're so damn close to the whole thing happening now.
Yeah.
So, that love, look, as kids being brought up in the system, we're listening to our parents talking about love. That isn't love. We're reading books and stories about love, whether they're novels or, whatever. There are so many different explanations about love that we are exposed to, or joy, or happiness, or we've been taught through the words about what joy is, or what happiness is, and what freedom is. It is not joy, or happiness, or freedom, or conscience, or anything, because it's all imaginary. It's fiction. That's not love.
Yeah.
That's not life. So when you're in the creativity of the real one, you're going to drop the fiction, which means eventually you're going to drop the internet. You're going to drop the clock. You're going to start dropping all these things and being busy waking up, going to bed in life itself at the local level where you live, because that's where you build up the power of that eternal life amongst the tribe, and where you start to fix all the problems that have been going on, because we don't live local. We're international, but nearly everything going on out there is not our dream. It's not our life. Yet you've been hoodwinked into thinking that it's part of it. And we get sitting there going to rallies and fights and wars all the time. You've forgotten who you really are. You've
Yeah.
forgotten about local. You've forgotten about the forest and the nature and what it provides and the food, and you're a spoon-fed slave, and you have to go to the shops, and you have to pay for the water. You have to pay for everything and everything, because they got you in fiction to such an extreme that you are just total economic slave with a currency that's not even worth hardly anything anymore. This is how extreme it's become. So all these distractions to what you started on from the beginning is useless. The only thing that matters that you pass on as a legacy and inheritance is the land and the paradise of the land, and the heart and everything you expanded with the trees and the birds and everything, to rebuild that a magnificent food forest and the gardens and all these things that we can create. Because that is the inheritance of eternal life that's passed on. And children, our grandchildren, can come and commune with us and talk with us, because that's what the stars are. All the stars are our ancestors. This is all through the laws of all the tribes, mate.
Yeah.
We're talking with our ancestors because it's a living dream. Live in. We live in dream. It's an eternal life of that living dream. We're living. We have to live the creativity. We are the bee. We should be the bee to the hive, the ant to the colony, the birds to the flock.
Anyway,
The,
I'm
the,
frozen on the screen again, but
that's
Arthur, I'm
okay.
gonna
All
have
right.
to stop this one there. I gotta go hit the road. But that was a pleasure and honor. Honestly, you have answered a lot of my interrogation. I still have more, but I mean it's not the end of my interrogation. But for today, you really have gave us a lot, and I'm very grateful for it.
Maybe one day the switch will click and you'll get on and start living.
Yeah, but that's it. That's the thing is you have to drop everything, like you say, the clock, the
You can do
internet,
it
drop it
gradually.
all
You can do it
and go to
gradually, though.
nature. Yeah,
You can do it gradually, Johnny.
yeah,
bit by bit, start dropping, and do with others, and dropping, working together, so everyone carries the weight of that responsibility of life.
Maybe it comes with gaining a little bit more maturity too. You become more mature.
Well, it's the wisdom, isn't it? It's that wisdom. When you get stronger with that wisdom, it's going to compel you to want to do something about it, instead of being compelled by the emotions, where we play out the ego and we want to run. I'm not having a go at you, but we all do this. We want to play our podcasts and we want to play out all these. They're all fictions. You can't pass that on as an inheritance to the living, because there's nothing there. You can't eat it, drink it, breathe it, smell it. And all the time we spend on fiction, we're creating no life. And if we spend a whole life creating no life because we're caught up in fiction, there's no life to move on with. You never created a soul, the living dream, the real soul. So that's spiritual suicide. So that's why we've got to stop it. But we just got to just do what we do until we get to the point where we were unwilling. Just to finish for me, we have to get to that point where we're unwilling anymore, and we have the discipline and the focus not to play out all the emotional, fictional stuff. No, we stop playing out the ego and the I and the me and the mine. We stop playing out what's in it for me, what's mine. I'm going to do this a little bit, but I don't want to do that. And look, there's so many different emotional rackets that we run that keep us as individual. They keep us in fiction. So all our energy goes to fiction and doesn't go to the village and doesn't go to our families and our children, where the real power is. And when you're depleted like a bucket with many holes in it, and we're trying to put the life force energy into it, it's just going back out of the holes, dissipating to nothing, because that's what fiction is. There's no life there.
Yeah.
And the outcome is no life. So if you want to live the real dream, you've got to start living, walk the talk, start being it. I talk about it as a price I pay and have suffered for that, and it's just my choice to share these wisdoms, to try and inspire other brothers and sisters to get out of there. It's like I'm standing on a bridge with a river flowing underneath me, and the river is everyone trapped in the system where I was in that way. And I'm standing there looking down going, get out of there, get out of there, get out of there, get out of there, and trying to show them what's happened, because they're just flowing in the fiction of no life.
They don't see it. And
they're suffering and all the harm. And this is the covert system of slavery. That's what I'm doing. But, at some point I'm going to stop that too. Because I've got to get on with this and be busy with this. So the fear point is so strong in people. They're paranoid. A lot of people have been told, pork is that we're a cult and that I'm a cult leader. Anyone who watches these videos comes in, we're not anything to do with any of this stuff. We really are a threat to the hierarchy of these people who are lost themselves, who are totally confused. We're not the enemy. They need to return to local as well and get away from all this nonsense, because they'll have no life. Another thing, one more thing to finish it. Sorry. These occultists have been sold porkies about dreams that if when you get initiated through the higher levels, above show pony levels of Rotary clubs and Lion Club, when you get to the higher levels, there you're promised a domain, a dimension, a kingdom. By the dirty work you do in this life, they don't call it dirty work, they just say it's your holy work. And all the souls who died into that dream will become your people that you'll rule over in the afterlife, in your domain. And so many of these high-level Freemasons live for this, and they'll do whatever atrocities needs to be done and lie to whatever scale they want to lie, because they believe in their afterlife they're going to have this reward for an eternal life with us. It's all absolute bullshit. They've all been done over with, no different to the rest of us. And the truth is this, is that there is, in fiction, there's no life for them. So when they are forgotten about, when the memories of their institutions and lodges and fraternities and societies and cabal, all that's gone, and there's no pictures, no plaques, because that's what a fever does when it wipes it out. It decimates all of life in that way, in where they are. They all go too. And all their dreams and all that because they're pariah, they're parasites living off the living, to think that they can do this sort of stuff in the afterlife, because there is no afterlife. There is no afterlife.
Yeah, that's a great topic too.
Eternal life in the here and now, in the present sense.
Yeah.
Because everything else is afterlife has come from the scripts. It's the Alice in Wonderland stuff again. Hello, afterlife, please talk to me. Please come forward. In that way, the fiction. Hello, God, please come forward. and yet we can manifest the imagery of God, but it's not God. It comes and goes very quickly, but it's not an eternal life where the tree is here and the bird is here, the living creation is a constant. Because that's the true temple of the real creator that we are, and we're amongst it. Nature itself is our true temple.
Yeah,
But we're supposed to be undefined when it was not supposed to be brought up by fiction
exactly.
and do what we do to nature, destroying it for the fiction we worship that makes us forget the purpose of every living thing around us. Because we're brutes, we're Godzilla. We're Godzilla just smashing through, and every Bambi we see, just slap them back, just wipe out everybody. All right.
All right, we're out, and that's it. If you want to come back, you're welcome. More than
We'll have a chat about it.
yeah.
We'll have a chat about it. Maybe we'll look at what.
Let me end the stream, and we can talk after. Hold on, I'll be.
Bye, everyone.